Yeah, that seems to me that might be the
Halder
case.
taking the cut through. Here we go. He's going to close in on Silva. He took the cut through on the corkscrew last time too. Is he going to do that again here?
Let's see, he's awful close to Silva. Silva goes a little bit deep. He is going to cut right through, comes in front of him, but he's a little bit out of sorts. Car manages to get itself back together, and Nico Silva tries to cut back on him, gives him another little hello, sneaks inside, down into turn 10, and makes a pass. I can't remember the last time I saw a pass into that turn.
It's going to take a brave move for the four chicanes here. No side-by-side yet from Sanchez. Trangarade will have to hold on through a tight section. White flag coming to checkered flag now. Sanchez needs a big corner exit here. Hard through the corner towards the final chicane. A slide for Trangarade. He hits the turtles. Sanchez with the pull. Side by side, they all slide. Trangarade wins it. My goodness, what happened?
Is that going to be enough to counteract anything? That's a battle for the lead as well. Frisha trying around the outside now. He's going to try to hold it out, but again, Paulie Partsinen able to hold it out. Oh my goodness.
And in the back, you can just see that is Juan Costa looking out of place, trying to get on the inside of Jukka Tolonen as they come around side by side and just shoved out to the grass. Thomas Simon has struck. He struck again, the second time in two corners. On the inside, going around the Lesbo 1 into Lesbo 2. Jukka Tolonen and Thomas Simon going at it. As we jump back to the car number 66 in ninth position, that is going to be Steve Bray looking to make the move on Alexander Wilfred on the outside, making it nice and tidy. Hold on to your hats, come on. Don't do it now, gentlemen. It's still a bit too early. Oh, on the inside, still holding. So he's hugging the inside curve as much as he can. Steve Dwyer on the last corner of the last lap makes a move and overtakes to take 8th position.
I think he has as well, but here comes the move for Philip Hammer. It's going to be down to the inside, going through the first corner, done and dusted. Lucetta tries to fight him back a little bit, but it's a little bit too late. But no, Lucetta's going to have the inside coming up the rise to Druids.
And in through Druids goes the slides. Philip Hammer is not able to make it effective on the outside, but on the inside.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, You can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an advanced sim racing customer.
The MX-5s offer a great introduction to those dipping their toes into road racing. Many drivers in the league are hopping over into the car from the oval side as their first serious foray into the discipline. But much to the shock of some, it's less dipping toes and more diving headfirst into the deep end, with the Nordschleife hosting the first round. Grab your life preserver and join us as we get ready to watch round one of the PRL GT Pro Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Part of the challenge of the ring is simply memorizing the lap. To show you what we mean, let's head to our track guide to get a sense of the scale of this place. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke plots, miss hit miss, bravery corner, and of course, the ever iconic carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Well, DJ, it's one ring to rule them all, but in case of today, the drivers are trying to rule the ring itself.
They are indeed, and just as the Fellowship had a very hard time getting the ring to Mount Doom, I think these drivers are going to have a very hard time getting themselves around here for the 4 laps that we see. The main part about this circuit, Joe, because it is so fast, so quick, so flowing, it's all about just keeping all 4 tires on the black stuff. I don't really anticipate a whole heck of a lot of passing going on. Maybe we could see a pass or two going into Nürburgring, going down into the carousel, but the main place that we're going to see it, that's on the Dottinger Hoa, getting a big advantage of that draft and taking advantage of the slipstream. From there on out, it is all about just you versus the track, minimizing those mistakes. And if you're a driver trailing, pressuring that car in front of you, like we always talk about, to see if you can force them offline a little bit.
Indeed. And should see some of those draft trains form throughout the race. We'll get to that in a second, but right now, we want to mention that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com.
And finally, the PRL GT Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
As for last season, it was a tight one with only a single point separating the championship in the end. Bradley Hawley just missing out on that behind Michael Michaud. Peter Newhook wound up with third place as Jacques Boucher was a bit of a distance back, and Johnny Luna unfortunately faltered a bit at the end and wound up in fifth place. We also had a teams championship. How was that one?
Well, in that team's championship, it was pretty much of a runaway there for Miata Mafia. Oh God, right turns, holding on for a little bit halfway through the season, but falling off near the end. And they were a big ways up on the Jaeger Bombs, who were able to hold off Fossil Racing. That was a battle we were keeping our eye on. And then decent ways back from them in fifth, it was RF Delta Sport.
Now, today's race is going to be slightly different because of the nature of the Nürburgring. It's a lap-limited race, 4 laps out here instead of a timed race. It's still open setup, and they have the same penalties on store. 13 will get you a drive-through, and then 17 incidents will get you a disqualification. Same bonuses. The other difference, since it's only 4 laps, there's no scheduled pit stops like we usually have in this series. So drivers will go straight through, and it is just a sprint from start to finish for everybody involved. Right now, though, they're in the midst of qualifying. They also get a little bit of extra for this one. And you can see it is still open qualifying. 30 minutes out there, and a lot of them are using that slipstream to try and get themselves a little extra speed. That's Cervantes at the front of this train in the 25. His first lap did not count, unfortunately, and he goes a little deep there into Hohenrain. Let's see if he kept it clean, though, on this second one as he comes around, and he did. And 8:04.3 is actually good enough for second, but Peter Newhook still has 2.5 seconds clear of everybody else.
Well, Joe, when you're driving such a massive circuit like that, that may seem like it's absolutely unparalleled and unbeatable, but the truth is just a little bit here and a little bit there, especially coming on to some of the straights, that is an attainable time. I am actually very impressed, though, with Kevin Bergquist, only about 0.2 of a second behind Bradley Hawley. That's a very, very impressively close margin between the two of them. Same with Randy Gross and Jacques Boucher down in 10th and 11th. 29 thousandths of a second around a near 13-mile track.
Yeah, that tells you how much these guys are pushing it, trying to take it to the very edge. But we're waiting on about half of them to set a time. Cabana, Duchesne, Durr, Hollingsworth, Kings, Galanotto, Thomas, Harris, Day, and Staton have all yet to set a time, and a few of them are still sitting in pit lane, so I suspect they're going to elect to try and start from the back. Honestly, valid around here as we see some more of them come past Antonius Beach. That's Foster leading Galanotto with side-by-side between Larson and Cabana there. But it's not quite like Talladega in that you're going to easily pick your way past everybody, but it is like Talladega in that we tend to see some big issues and some pileups on the first lap around here. So I wonder if that's what some of those drivers are thinking about, just trying to give themselves some room to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, Joe, and for as long as this track is, it is equally narrow. There's only about 2 car widths that you can really feasibly be at any point in this track. And once you get into the super twisty bits, particularly after Arenberg, going up towards Metzgefeld, that kind of area, it gets very tricky to go side by side. And if there is an accident, it kind of acts a little bit like you get going up and down the hill at Mount Panorama. The track can get blocked quite easily, and a lot of drivers can get taken out. So I understand the desire for guys like Cabana and Harris and Stanton to just wait in the pits and maybe have the race come to them a little bit.
Watching Raymond Day in the 77, who's on his way up the Dunninger Hoa, and he's all by his lonesome, so he's not going to get the slipstream that some of the others have. Wonder if this will still help him out being without any sort of distractions around. Maybe he feels like he's quicker without having to worry about someone making a mistake in front of him or behind, pressing the issue at an unfortunate spot. And even with this long stretch, the Miata's only getting up to about 125 miles an hour through here. So they're not exactly in dangerous position along this long straight coming up to Tiergarten here, where he finally is going to get on the brakes right about now. And this is where he's got to absolutely nail it into Hohenrain.
Yeah, be very careful through there. That's such a tricky area to get right. And it looks like he was able to do it fairly well. He's going to come across the line. Let's see where that puts Mr. Day. Was he able to do it without an off track? He was not. So that lap is not going to count for Raymond.
Unfortunate. And then next up, I think, is Toma here. Pete is working his way up towards Swallowtail, I think, here. Yeah, this is the 99 car. Whoop! And an off is going to cost him his second lap. And considering we've only got a minute left, he is not going to have one count. This will finish out, though. The drivers will actually be able to complete their hot laps here. But they've got to keep it clean for the remainder of this lap.
Indeed, they do. As we check back in here, drivers just continuing to circle around right over fluid plots there. A little jump that you can get sometimes in those Lotus 49s. This is going to be the next set of drivers that will be able to set a time here. This is going to be Bradley Holly and Danny Cervantes, with Parker Muirhead and Peter Newhook behind them. Both of them kind of drafting in pairs here, trying to get the full advantage. I do frankly anticipate this being the most effective strategy, Joe, is you need to get that toe down the Dottinger Hoa to really make it work. There they make their way through that famous carousel.
Yeah, right now I'm seeing both Cervantes and Holly are about a second and a half quicker this time. So it does seem to be working. They're bringing along Muirhead, but he is 2 seconds down on his best time from what I'm seeing. So I'm not sure if he had a mistake, maybe he was in front of them and has slipped behind, because the slipstream should be pulling him forward right now. He could still get into it and maybe get past them and have something in that sense. Randy Gross is about a 10th up. That could easily waver back and forth with still plenty of the lap to go for him.
Yeah, lots of time there for everybody to be out and running. I have to say, though, I think Parker Muirhead got a little bit caught out. Peter Newhook was there around him previously, and I think Peter had some sort of disconnection issue because he blinked a little bit and then is off track, and so that may have been what broke him off from this gap a little bit. He's holding at about 1.8 seconds behind them. That's not really going to take that much draft from the back of Cervantes.
No, it really isn't. And right now, past Ice Curve and into Flansgarden, Bradley Holly is the one giving the slipstream to Cervantes over that little jump into Flansgarden, and now you go over a crest into the Beloff S's. This is where it gets a little bit scary. Not quite as much so in these cars. They don't get too fast. I can tell you the Lotus 49, though, it is frightening through here. You can see how it just weaves back and forth, the camber changing with each and every twist.
It really is the ultimate driver's track out here, Joe. You've just got to be able to memorize absolutely everything as they swing their way through the left, lining up for the mini carousel here. Another super banked corner. You want to keep it down low there on those sort of concrete patches. You don't want to let the car drift up too much. It's sort of anti-progressive banking as it flattens out over the top there.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a tabletop. And now out of Gallows Hill, this is where you want to be able to keep the throttle down. And it looks like both of them were flat out, but Cervantes gets a nice tow, pulls out to the side, and he might find himself losing a bit of speed, but he should be able to get ahead of Holly with enough momentum here. Muirhead is definitely too far back to be able to hold on to them. So Cervantes ducks in front, gives it a little bit back. They don't want to make contact here as 0X will discount their qualifying lap, so they can't bump draft. And he tries to pull back to the side, but it doesn't seem to be working.
No, it doesn't. Bradley just searching around there a little bit for it. I think he's trying to figure out if he wants to try to make a pass here, if he's okay staying behind and maybe sacrificing a couple hundredths of a second by braking early, going down into the left-hander, and then this right-handed sweep coming back down around there, right past pit entry into that final right-hander. Let's see what they've got.
Cervantes crosses the line. It is an 8:04.1, and for Holly, another 8:04.1, 9 thousandths of a second between them.
Wow, Joe, that is absolutely incredible. We focus back here on the 55. This is Randy Gross, who is currently working his way around. He should be able to set a lap as he is coming on the Dotting Hoa right now.
Yep, should be able to complete it. Thankfully, thanks to iRacing implementing some new capabilities, I think they will be able to skip ahead to the race session here once they cross the line. Pete Thomas is the only other one out on track currently. And Randy Gross past Antonius Beach into the last little braking zone on the track. Last two, really. T13 does have one after this into Tiergarten and Hohenrad, and he gets it woed up in time. It's always one of my fears, is coming in so fast in there, and you want to break as late as possible, but it's the last point, so you also don't want to throw it all away at the end. And his lap is an 8:14.3. That'll put him into 8th position.
All right, not bad from him at all, but we focus back here on Pete Thomas, who I do believe will be able to set a lap here in the 99 machine as he makes his way through that left-hander. He'll be coming up here on Hoa Acht, going ready for the big carousel.
Indeed, and as he works his way past the Moot Curve up to the Stijlstrecke, once again, getting on the binders after a long time on the throttle, hoping the brakes still work as well as you hope. And then into the carousel. Oh, so important to try and keep it ducked into this banking here. And it looks like he is going to be able to keep it from popping out. So he'll get a good run through there. And continuing on, Hoa Acht is the highest part of the track, actually. He's going to reach that here in a second.
Indeed he is, and there he is just about to get to it, crosses it over there, then gets down, ready to set up for Wipperman here, trying to just keep as much momentum. You can see how that car just kind of wants to slide a little bit on its axis. It's just because he's carrying so much speed, not a lot of aerodynamics, if any. Ooh, that may have been bordering on an off track there. Oh, very sideways.
Ooh, but he caught it. If it was an off track, I would think he would call it a day from here and let everybody move on. He's still got, looks like about 6 minutes left here in this session. So we don't want to keep this waiting too long. Out of Bruchin, giving quite a margin to the outside of that corner, it seems, the 99. And ice curve off camber over the crest. It looks like he couldn't quite keep that one down to the apex. Into Flansgarden. Let's see if the car hops up into the air a little bit here. Over the crest. Just a little bit of air.
Just a little bit, nothing too crazy there, so he'll be able to keep it at least nice and contained. Now he works his way back through Flansgarden, going down, riding up for the mini carousel. Another one of those areas that you've got to be absolutely picture perfect. Yes, it is such a banked corner, and that can carry a lot of speed there, but Joe, as you said, if you just kind of tip your right side out onto that anti-progressive banking, whew, it'll ruin your lap all kinds of quick.
Out of Swallowtail. Let's see. This one is much shorter, and he does make it through. Didn't look the smoothest of runs through there, though. May have lost some time, but just getting around for the lap is what's important here, because Thomas does not have a time set. Up and over Gallows Hill. Well, he's staying very tucked to the inside. I'm not sure if that's going to give him the best run off the turn, but it looks like he handles it well enough. And now that little engine is able to open up, and it's a climb up the hill past the Nürburgring entry. This is where if you were a tourist and the tourist farting version of this track, you would come in along here underneath this part and then enter into the gates and go from what they call bridge to gantry.
Exactly, and someday I will actually do that, Joe. It is certainly on my bucket list, but there you can see Pete not having to worry about that part of it, just going and running here as he gets ready to line down into Tiergarten, lining up for T13, that ever crucial corner that you talked about earlier.
Indeed. He's a little bit out of sorts, but he gets it woed up in time. From what we've seen, it is questionable on if this is going to count. Did he have an off track? No, he did not. It's an 8:15.1, and that'll put him into 12th. That was a lot of positions that he gained from that one moment. That means that our grid is now set. Let's go through that starting order. Peter Newhook is looking untouchable today. 2.5 seconds to the nearest car, but Bradley Holly was still quite quick. He put it in second place. He and Cervantes only split by less than 100th of a second. Cervantes starts third. Kevin Bergquist good enough for fourth place, with Parker Muirhead starting in fifth, and it's Todd Lewis in the sixth position. You've got Jason Larson, P7, with Randy Gross in eighth position. After that, Malcolm Foster will start ninth, and Paul Crumray will be in 10th.
Lining up in 11th, it's going to be Jacques Boucher, followed by Pete Thomas, with Robert Gallinotto in 13th and Mark Cassell in 14th. Sidney DeSantos will be in 15th, followed by Raymond Day, with Ryan Kings and Ian Cabana behind them. Jeff Hollingsworth will be 19th, followed by Danny Duchesne in 20th.
Then we have the last driver to set a time, or well, actually in practice, James Durr did not set one. He will start from 21st, Austin Harris 22nd, and Jerome Staton in 23rd. Just about have everybody gridded up, and then we will go racing for 4 mighty laps here around the Nürburgring in MX-5s. Looks like everybody's out there. We're going to hear the engines start to rev as the lights come up. It's round 1 for the MX-5 Cup Series in the Precision Racing League, and the green flag is out. Good start for Newhook. Not quite as good a one for Bradley Holly as Cervantes starts to pull up beside him as they come up to Sabine Schmidt's corner. No change for your top 3. Everybody else piling in there.
Little bit of side-by-side in the back between Todd Lewis and Kevin and Parker Muirhead, but that was able to calm down a little bit. Bergquist able to slot into P4. Everybody looking nice and orderly here, I think, even though they know this is a 4-lap race. It's a very long race, so nobody wants to get too aggressive too early, Joe.
Exactly. About the worst fear the back has is getting caught up in a wreck, and the second worst is losing that front group. So for now, they don't have to worry too much because we haven't seen a wreck up at the front, and they also haven't lost too much touch. There is a bit of a gap forming there. That could still be reeled back in, even at a full second and a half splitting them. But up and over Fluke Plots, Peter Newhook is allowing Bradley Holly to trail behind him in the slipstream. And into Cottonborn they go. The first gap is at 7th place, with Larson having lost a little touch to Todd Lewis.
And I'm liking Danny Cervantes here. We said he was losing a little bit of time, but as they crested over in through Kettleborn, you saw him able to gain up. That tells me that there's some good mechanical grip in that car. Watch him through the faster sweeping corners here to be able to maybe gain up some time for that 25.
Through Ehrenberg, still no change amongst those top 6. Not seeing anybody attack amongst the back of the pack either. So yeah, it's looking like an incredibly patient group here today. So we hop on board now with Bradley Holly, watching as they go through compression. Now it's into Outenauer Forest, a very tricky braking zone into this right, left, right.
Very tricky indeed. Bradley, as we ride on board with him here, able to keep it all together nice and easy. Nothing doing too crazy. I think he is winning the Patience Award thus far. And always, as always, we see Bradley just absolutely stone-faced riding behind Peter Newhook.
Sends it into Metzgefeld. Very marginal turn, that one, and then they have to brake hard for the second half of it, and it starts to plunge downhill here. This is taking them to one of the lowest points on the track, and then it's going to be a long climb where pretty much no downhill portions will take them to the highest part of the track. And through the Spiegel curve, miss, hit, miss. This is one of the more terrifying ones, a triple apex right-hander.
It is, and plunging downhill as it does, a little bit off camber, so your car is going to be slightly off key, and then having to go into that chicane right thereafter. So very difficult to get right. All drivers looking like they've got it, though, for now.
Yeah, so steeply downhill into that one. Braking hard for Defense Valley as it curves as well. It is a tough one. Brideshide up next. One of the few places where you can actually leave the track here, but they're not leaving the track at this point. They're heading to Exmula. And now it's coming up to the infamous Loudon Links. A little bit of a look as Bradley Holly thinks about it, but decides not to pass quite yet. Doesn't really need to pass at this stage. Nobody's going to make contact. Peter Newhook goes around, and now contact as well with Cervantes, and taking advantage, Bergquist is going to go from 4th to 1st.
Well, that's exactly the kind of thing you have to do around here at the Nürburgring. Bradley Holly immediately jumping on the radio and apologizing for that issue to happen right there. But Bergquist with the heads-up play of the moment, he saw it happen and just went for it.
Checking to see if Newhook touched the wall at all, and it looks like he managed to keep that from happening. So only minor damage we're expecting from those front runners. Newhook did fall to 7th. They climb through Kesselchen and Klostertal and up to the Moot curve. This is called Bravery Corner, and in this car, it can often throw you off on that first lap around. Looks like all of them managed to take it. But here we approach Teilstrecke. Will we see Bradley Holly try to get the lead once again? Oh, he's a little bit offline there.
Little bit offline as they dive it into the left-hander now, getting ready to set up for that infamous carousel. Just a little bit of a chicane that you don't really have to take before you get to it. Here comes the dive. A little bit of a later entry into that for Bradley Holly, I think trying to carry a little bit more momentum, and that was a bad exit there for Kevin Bergquist.
And Cervantes also popped out of the banking. Holly all over the back of Bergquist as they come up to Hoa Acht. There's going to be a little left and right here at this highest portion of the track where you got to send it in fast and then barely lift off the throttle, get on the brakes. Looks like Bergquist has recovered well. He's getting himself away from that 184.
Yeah, he's able to pull away here a little bit. Just that patience playing off. Bergquist not responding to anything that Holly has to throw at him. You know, what Holly was doing earlier to Peter Newhook, I really, really liked. He wasn't really going for an overtake necessarily, just trying to fill his mirrors, as we often talk about, trying to see if he can maybe get the driver offline and force a mistake. And unfortunately, I think what happened is that Newhook got a little bit squirrely, had to catch it, and Holly just wasn't anticipating having to check up like that.
Had a problem for James Durr. He wrecked coming out of the carousel. We had another incident. Danny Duchesne just now seems to have collected the wall. So we're starting to see the first few drivers gobbled up by the ring. Durr actually took a tow. Duchesne is trying to keep rolling.
And with as long as this lap is for Danny Duchesne, if he is able to go in and just kind of, oh, no,
he's taking a tow.
Yeah, that's not going to work out.
He's got a meatball flag too. So, well, no, he's going to try and keep it rolling. Wow, I think he should probably just take a tow at this stage. He's going to get a drive-through penalty if he keeps going off like that. And that would just add to his woes. Meanwhile, it is still Bergquist, who is ahead of Holly, who is ahead of Cervantes. Newhook's managed to get into 6th, so he's got at least one of those cars that he lost positions to.
Yeah, Newhook's going to be on a little bit of a charge here, but I'm keeping my eye on Danny Cervantes as we see Bradley Holly dropping off the back of Kevin Bergquist just a little bit. Cervantes has been able to hold this gap under a second right now to Bradley Holly, and in the last 2 sectors, he was about 0.7 of a second faster, so he's certainly got some speed. His only problem, Parker Muirhead only 0.4 behind him, and I think Parker's going to have something to say about that 3rd place position.
Bradley Holly is really pulling on Bergquist now as well. He's got a full 4 miles an hour faster than him along the Dodinger Hoa. I think he's going to try and take the spot. Will he lift? Will he go for it? He's going to try and go for it. Looking for the lead. Bradley Holly finally gets himself to the point. But is there any damage on the nose that could slow him up in a straight line? That'll make it hard to repeat that feat throughout the remainder of the race, but for now, he will get to lead a lap. Newhook managed to move into 5th. He's about 2.5 seconds behind the leader.
I'm looking at the nose of Bradley Holly right now, and I think he was able to escape without any damage. At least doesn't look like there's any cosmetic damage to that 184 MX-5. Oh, we've had a big incident there. That's the number 11 all turned around. That's Malcolm Foster.
Raymond Day also involved in the number 77. Those two tangled, braking for Hohenrain. And that's what sent them both into the pits. Thankfully, very close, so that tow won't last too long. But they have no spare car in this series, so they're going to have to sit and wait until that car is in good enough condition to drive, because they definitely got meatball flags from that one. And boy, is Holly sliding around a lot.
Yeah, Holly really looks like he is pushing that car. I think he knows the advantage of the draft on the Dodinger Hoa, and he is just trying to pull out as much of a gap as he can here early on. They work their way, getting up towards Flugplatz. Nobody getting any air there, as there's just enough downforce to force these cars into the ground, but Holly trying to pull that gap up from about 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, Holly's doing everything he can to try and distance himself from the 64, but the slipstream is reeling him in fairly well. And I think we've got a chance for a replay in the meantime, and here it is.
Ooh. It's a hard hit into the wall for both cars. Just a little bit of a bump and run there, unfortunately, and coming right back across the track. I think the 11 just lost control of that with Malcolm Foster.
Absolutely, and you can see him sitting in pit lane in the meantime. So we come back to our leaders all the way up to Oudenauer Forst already, and it's becoming a 4-car train amongst them now. Muirhead having joined them there at the back. Peter Newhook still has to try and make up some time. Well, no, I take that back. There he appears. He should start getting the slipstream himself.
Yeah, he should. He should certainly be able to get that and close back in. But Danny Cervantes all over the back of Kevin Bergquist here. That is the immediate fight as they break down for the left-hander into the right here. That tricky chicane that we talked about, and now into that triple apex left-hander downhill. So easy to lose control of the car, but everybody getting it. Whoa! In the back, Peter Newhook looked like he was driving the wheels off of that thing, almost drifting it through the corner.
Cervantes still sitting in third as we watch from on board down through miss, hit, miss. And here you can see that tricky braking I was talking about into Defense Valley. All three of them managing to navigate it successfully. So we've got a 5-car train now. We've got 2 others in the back that could catch back up as well. There is Newhook. He was our leader and easily our pole sitter in this race. If you're just joining in, we're on lap 2 out of 4, and he's having quite the recovery to get back involved, to try and challenge for the win.
Yes, he is. He's trying to close down on Parker Muirhead. I will say through the second sector, Parker Muirhead set a purple time, so there definitely is some speed in that number 19 machine. But the biggest thing here for Peter Newhook is he needs to do one of 2 things. He needs to dispatch Muirhead by the time they get to the Dottinger Hoa and hope he can pull up a little bit more on the back of Danny Cervantes, or he needs to wait until they get to the Dottinger Hoa and then absolutely go for broke. Use that overspeed to be able to pull up to the back of those leading cars behind and hopefully be able to pull that gap back down to about a second to a second and a half.
Little bit of a look to the inside from Bergquist. Does he actually want to try and go through? It can be tricky. You can see how much it weaves back and forth, just a dab of the brakes as they fly through Bravery Corner. And that looks to me like they have caught the back of that group there as Muirhead has pulled along Newhook. So I think he is there and with it, but it's going to be a lot of twisting and turning here on the high portion of the course after the carousel, so he could still drop some time.
Yeah, they could still drop some time, and it's really just all about patience from here on out. Watching everybody work their way through the carousel. I'm not seeing any bad exits there from anybody. It looks like Parker Muirhead maybe lost about 1/10 of a second to Danny Cervantes, but that's nothing to fret over. He's still within 0.5 of a second. That's still going to be maximum draft range.
The 2 behind them that we saw briefly are Todd Lewis and Ryan Kings. They're back by about 5 seconds, and it looks like here now that we have gotten to the technical portions, they are dropping farther behind. So through Vipperman, and then it is up into Ashbrook here.
Yeah, and those top 3 separating out a little bit as the course starts to get very, very twisty. And whoa, everybody very sideways out of the corner.
Thankfully, no wrecks amongst them. This is our closest battles, really. Only other one on track right now, I think, is between Krumrye and Randy Gross for 10th. They're still split by about half a second down in the mid-pack there. Into the ice curve. As, side by side there. Now is go time, apparently, for the likes of Newhook. But he can't affect the pass, and this is costing them time. Now he's through.
There. Yeah, there we got it done. A good move for Peter Newhook, and look at that. He's already able to grow that gap by about half a second. So much more speed. Oh, we've got a car around. That's the 15, I believe.
That was the battle I was just talking about, and that was a self-made error out of Brunchen. They often call it YouTube corner because of so many wrecks happening there and drivers, or fans rather, recording the drivers losing it. But Krumrye, unfortunately, has been the latest added to that playlist, it seems. Back up to our leaders once again into the mini carousel. Newhook has gotten past, wow, he was 2.5 seconds behind. And in just a few corners, he's cut it down to 1.5 seconds. I'm not sure that might get him the slipstream here.
It's going to be close. He's got it down to 1.3 now, 1.2 and a half. It's going to be an effect of it. It's not going to be massive. I anticipate him probably being able to pull up to the back of Kevin Bergquist and make this interesting, but I don't think he's going to be able to affect a pass, Joe. And indeed, he's losing time here on the Dottinger Hoa.
Yeah, Bergquist has got a much better slipstream, so he's having trouble trying to pull up to him. Cervantes is going to look around the right-hand side of Holly, and he's going to take it. Is it going to be 2 spots down? Bergquist blows on by as well. And now Cervantes leaves him out to dry, though. So there goes the slipstream for Bergquist. It's not going to be 2 spots. Kevin's got to give it up. But Newhook closed it down to about 0.7 of a second. He wound up making some of the time up.
Indeed, and now as they cross the line here with 2 laps to go, this is where strategy starts to come into play, Joe. If I'm these drivers, I do not want to be leading on the Dottinger Hoa on the final lap. I do not think that's going to work well, as to the surprise of nobody. Peter Newhook sets the fastest lap of the race there with an 8:02.4. But I do not want to be leading on that last run to the line. I want to be second, maybe third, so that I can get a full use of the slipstream, pull out, and try to pull away.
I don't know, though. We've going way back as we take a look at a couple other cars here, swapping spots on the Dottinger Hoa. Going way back in time in GSRC to the MX-5 World Tour, we saw situations where drivers were able to swap positions and then swap them right back. So it actually might be advantageous to be ahead if you can manage to try and pull the slipstream right back on the driver you're fighting with. So it's hard to call for me. I don't know if there's really one definitive place that you want to be. As we go over Flugplatz, Cervantes, now your new leader coming into Cottonborn.
Yeah, indeed. And Cervantes trying to pull that gap out a little bit. He had it up to about 0.7 of a second. It's now dropping under 5, hovering near 0.4. The closest between the two right now is between Holly and Bergquist. That's hovering at about 1 to 0.2 of a second.
Still have 17 cars running, by the way. A number of them have come to pit lane to try and get repairs. Duchesne, Durr, Foster, Crumry, and Cabana, with only one retiree in the form of Raymond Day. And out of Ehrenberg, Cervantes still hasn't given this lead up. Bergquist has not been able to overtake Holly, but Newhook, how much does he want track position here? He's got 3 cars in front of him with 2 laps to go. Does he try and at least get himself into third past Bergquist, or is he happy and content to sit back here?
I think P4 is a little bit scary, Joe, because of the possibility of on the Dottinger Hoa going 3 wide, and there's not going to be a whole lot of room for Peter Newhook. So if I can, I maybe want to try Kevin Bergquist and get that jump, maybe in an area that he's not suspecting, or maybe just on the simple area of the Dottinger Hoa, keeping it nice and close and just using that draft.
Into the second part of Metzgefeld. They're going to head into Collenhard. This is a downhill braking right-hander. Very tough to get the most out of it, with the car wanting to just wash out wide, but they all managed to get through. Cervantes still having that track position over Bradley Holly. Through miss, hit, miss. Who is pushing it to the limit? Well, it certainly looks like Cervantes is, as he nearly slides into the grass.
Yeah, I think Danny Cervantes is really starting to feel the pressure here. He knows exactly how fearsome of a driver that 184 of Bradley Holly can be, and Holly is just applying maximum pressure here, really putting the screws to the 25. We're often used to seeing Cervantes sort of on the attack, the rabid dog, as it were, snapping at the heels of the leaders. Him out front, he's now having to learn a whole new set of tricks.
And remember, it was a 1-point difference that he missed out on the championship last time. So Holly probably feels like every position is important here today. This is where he made contact on the first lap. And this time through in Bergwerks, he manages to stay out of Cervantes. The top 4 definitely stretching away from Muirhead back in 5th at this stage. He is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, he really is, and he's about 3 seconds back from this leading group that is well out of draft range. These top three have really pulled up close to one another. They're within about a tenth of a second of one another. Newhook was about a little ways back, but now he starts to pull in. Is that a little bit of a look or just a little bit of a head fake? I think it's the latter there on Kevin Berquist, trying to see if he can force anything out.
We lost another one. Ryan Kings unfortunately hit the wall in Bergwerks, so he's now sent himself to pit lane, and it looks like he may be actually out. No, I do not see him officially retired, so he could still yet try and get into this race. Braking hard for Style Strecke. Remember, we're still only 2 laps in to this race, and we still have to get the white flag next time by. So there's plenty left to go. We got another car off.
Hearing that was the 47 of Austin Harris there, Joe. Just looked like he had a little bit of an error and took a tow back to the pits.
Yet more and more fall by the wayside, unable to stand up to the challenge that is the Nürburgring's Nordschleife. So climbing the hill here, cresting over the top at Hohe Acht. Now back down the hill into Wipperman. This is a scary portion. It may not look like it. It is very bumpy, hence the name, means seesaw man. And it's also very fast. You make a mistake, there's no room for error. The Armco is there to collect you.
Yeah, and you can really see the suspension travel in these cars, Joe. This is one of the circuits that you absolutely have to have that bump and rebound stiffness set absolutely perfectly because of the many elevation and track changes over the course of this monster of a circuit. You have got to be very careful. If you run this thing too stiff, it'll really upset you.
Absolutely. And to be able to take those countless curbs as well. Look at how steep they are around here as we jump a little bit back to a battle for position between Lewis and Larson. This is 6th place through ice curve, a defense from Lewis, and he doesn't lose the spot, but he got awful close to the exit.
Yeah, I certainly did, and I like the aggression there from Jason Larson, just trying to push an advantage where he can. He wants to be careful. He doesn't want to sacrifice too much track time at it, sacrifice too much of anything, but he does want to see if he can force an error out of Todd Lewis.
Absolutely, and our leaders are getting close to the Dodinger Hoa as well. And this is important because this is the first time that Newhook... Oh, and Cervantes is off. Did he get the wall there, or did he manage to avoid it?
I think he managed to avoid the wall, Joe, but what he did do was just come up over the lip of the mini carousel a little bit too early, and that sent him off.
Oh, and that put Newhook off the line. I was about to say this is the first lap that Newhook has finally caught up to the slipstream of the leaders, but he lost it with that little move. So now he's really got to hustle and get his head in the game, because up at the front, Bergqvist and Holly only have themselves to worry about. It's about 1.3 seconds back to Cervantes as Bergqvist takes that lead away. Looks like Newhook's going to go past Cervantes. The time coming down slightly, but it's not going to be enough to fully catch them.
No, it's not, but he's going to have a whole other lap to do it. He's got it down under 0.8 of a second or so. So that is doable. Now down under 0.6. He is really closing in fast here. So this is going to set up a battle of the Titans. These four, Bergqvist, Holly, Newhook, and Cervantes, they're going to take the white flag here as they go through T13.
Yeah, some of that oval experience coming in for Danny Cervantes. He was bump drafting Newhook down the Dodinger Hoa. As we watch them head into Sabine Schmidt's corner for the last time. They lost a little bit to Muirhead as well in that. Remember, he was as far back as about 5 seconds. He caught up to about 3 seconds, I think, because of some of those issues with our leaders, but still has a ways to try and claw his way up into a chance to taking the win. Down into High Oaks. This is where that exit is important, coming out of here, because it is flat to the floor all the way to the Swedish cross.
Yeah, it is indeed. You've got to be very careful to get it right. It looks like Newhook lost a little bit of time gap at about 0.6 of a second, but because they are flat out, he will get the benefit of the draft here, as will Bradley Holly. Kevin Bergquist leading out front, cutting the air for all these other drivers.
Newhook should be able to close in. It's 0.6 of a second past Flugplatz and into Cottonborn. Let's see. Swedish Cross is one of those very difficult corners where you might need a little bit of lift. It all depends on how you got the car set up. Holly wasn't exactly looking. He's going to stay in line. We're going to watch his onboard. I think I heard a little lift for them, and then hard braking down into Ehrenberg, and Newhook wasn't close enough to try and attack. He'll stay in third.
No, he won't, but he's got the gap down to about 0.4 of a second, so that's within striking range if he can keep it right around there, Joe.
Past the foxhole and into compression. Let's see if he can maybe do something here. Does he dare? No, backs out of it as they go through the left-hand kink leading into Audenauer Forst. Little offline behind them and offline in front of him as well, as Bergquist finds himself struggling, keeps it from going completely off course, but he has been unnerved here on this last lap, and now Bradley Holly has got him on the ropes.
He does indeed. Bradley Holly closing in behind, as now Peter Newhook only 0.2 of a second behind. Danny Cervantes within 0.2 of a second of Peter Newhook. So these guys just throw a blanket over this leading quartet. This could be anybody's race by the time we get to the Dottinger Hoa if they can keep it together.
Really could be, and this is what we kind of expected with these MX-5s. As technical as the track is, it all comes down to that slipstream battle. Through miss, hit, miss. Last time Cervantes had some trouble through here. This time he looks a lot more tidy. Can Bergquist manage to go through Defense Valley clean? He looks a little deep there, but he's still good.
That is very impressive, Joe. I thought for sure that was going to be an error that was going to come back to cost Kevin Bergquist, but he did not flinch at it. Still able to hold about a 0.3 of a second advantage over the 184 of Bradley Holly.
Now they're going to come up to the next long straight here after Bergwerks. But again, there's a lot of weaving back and forth through there, so it can be tough to try and pass, especially if you don't have a nose in yet and you get up to one of those little kinks into Bergwerks. Let's see what Bergquist has underneath him. You need the best exit possible, and he looks like he once again sent it in just a little bit hot because Holly immediately closes down the gap, but he lifts. He doesn't want to go by. Now, this could obviously work well for him later, but for now, it's going to backfire because Newhook has more speed, is going to try and use that to go past, and he doesn't have it. He starts to fall backwards.
Just a little bit too much twisting there. He's got to be careful. Danny Cervantes looked like he got his elbows out a little bit, almost pushed him off the track a little bit, so now Newhook's going to have to fall back in line into P4.
Oh, man, this has not been Newhook's day. I wonder if he's lacking a little top end as well, if he's having to rely on the slipstream. Oh, and we get a challenge from Cervantes on Holly into Style Strecker, and it's successful. He takes second place away. Cervantes may have made an error on the lap before, but he is coming back with a vengeance here.
Sure is, as they all dive their way down through Carousel. Holly got up a little bit early out of that corner. It's Bradley Holly in the 184 that's feeling a little bit of the pressure, and now Peter Newhook moving this way and that, trying to think about a move.
They are back on their own once again. It is 5.5 seconds back to Muirhead. That's not taking into account the possibility that if one of them wrecks, especially if they're at the front, it could collect all of them. And then it could be an easy win for Parker Muirhead back there in 5th place. We'll just have to wait and see. As they weave back and forth now. This is coming up into Ashbrook once again. Very awkward corner there over that right-hander as the track is off camber. And I think Cervantes has got to get maybe a little bit closer than that. He is going to be able to pull that slipstream.
Well, the one benefit, Joe, of him being a hair farther back is that's going to reduce any time that Kevin Bergquist is going to have to respond and try to tuck back up behind and sort of re-slipstream him. So that may be a little bit of a strategy call out of the 25 of Danny Cervantes, but we'll have to see.
That's a good point. Playing some games here at the end, as you have to with this combination. So I think this is into Flan's Garden now. So after this, it's into the Beloff S, and very few braking events from there on out. It's a massive gap on down from Muirhead as well, by the way. We talked about how he's fallen back. It's actually up to 8 seconds to the leader now, 7.5 to fourth place. You got to go back 14 more seconds to get to Jason Larson in sixth place. They have very much dropped the rest of the field, but here we go, coming up to Gallows Hill. This is the most important exit of the race.
Looks like everybody gets it nice and easy. I think indeed there, Bradley Holly looks like he gained a little bit of time on Danny Cervantes. Cervantes about 0.7 of a second back from Kevin Bergquist, but he is closing.
Right now, 120 miles an hour for Cervantes. Bergquist, 122. Uh-oh. He's got to get more speed than that at this point. He does have some help. That's Bradley Holly pushing him, hoping both of them can get up there. Now they've got the speed advantage, 135 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour quicker than Bergquist. They're both going to be by, but now that they've passed him, has this alliance, is it going to dissipate? It looks like Newhook's going to be able to get into third. Bradley Holly's not going to abandon his friends. Cervantes will stay in front. He's going to push him all the way to the lead, and they're going to brake hard this last time on the lap. Cervantes is clean through turn 13 here. Danny Cervantes is going to be your winner here at the Nürburgring.
A little bit of NASCAR tactics coming into play for Danny Cervantes and Bradley Holly as they take 1-2. We've got another little battle in the back. This is Jason Larson and Todd Lewis.
This is for sixth place, and right now Larson has the advantage, breaking it hard down into the corner. A little bit of a slide for Jason. He opens the door. Lewis sees it, tries to get in his foot, and he does shake him off of it, but he's not close enough to be able to pass him, and Larson will take sixth.
Very close battle there between them. We focus back on the 55. This is Randy Gross, who's able to hold off Jacques Boucher to the line right now. Couple other drivers still a fair ways back that we're waiting for to finish. I believe this is Robert Gallinotto. Or no, excuse me, this is your winner, Danny Cervantes.
Yeah, no other battles, unfortunately, to the finish, and only 15 on the lead lap. That's Jerome Stanton, the last of those who's going to finish there. Let's head to a quick break, though. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-Box system We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Welcome back to the Nürburgring Round 1, and the MX5 Cup Series gave us quite a finish, and it was Danny Cervantes who managed to take the win, helped by his teammate Bradley Hawley, who finished P2, as Peter Newhook, who started on pole with a significant advantage on pace, it seemed, unfortunately got a little bit tipped around by Hawley early on and just was not able to get himself into the right spot to take the win there in the end. Still a podium for him, as Perquist was fourth after leading at the start of that last lap. Muirhead was P5 as Jason Larnison finished in sixth. You've got Todd Lewis in seventh with Randy Gross in eighth and Jacques Boucher ninth, followed by Galinotto rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, it was Jeff Hollingsworth, followed by Mark Gassell with Sidney DeSantos in 13th and Pete Thomas in 14th. Jerome Stanton was 15th, followed by Austin Harris, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, with James Durr one lap down, as was Ryan Kings, Paul Crumai, and Danny Duchesne.
And then from there, you've got DNFs for the last few, sadly, but we have a win for Danny Cervantes, finding himself on the top step of the podium. First win in the MX5 Cup Series for Danny Cervantes. Danny, congratulations. A win at the ring has got to feel special, but it looks like you had a little help. Were you in contact with Brad for that last move there?
Yeah, me and Brad, obviously you guys know we're on the same oval team, so we were communicating throughout. We were communicating through qualifying and the race. And on the uphill climb before the carousel, he's like, Danny, I'm going to push you on the last lap, see if we can get a 1-2 finish, whether hit him first or me first.
Awesome stuff. And it did get you the win in the end. But staying with that front group certainly looked like to be job one, especially when there was that contact on the very first lap between Danny and Peter, and you had to kind of check up to keep from getting more involved in that. Did you have any lasting damage after that, or was the car okay?
A little bit after the contact, I thought I had a little bit of suspension damage just from the hard I hit Brad, because I got spit out in the carousel and it just wouldn't turn in. But I guess it was still a little bit of the cold tires, because after that, it didn't feel like I had any damage at all. I was able to keep up with the pack in the straights and, of course, keep up with him in the corners.
Well, this kicks things off nicely for you in the championship, but obviously this is a very unique circuit. And like I said, you had the help of Bradley there with you. Can you keep up the momentum enough that you could maybe snag a few more wins as the points race goes on?
That's always in the back of my mind going throughout. I have been trying to do more road racing within the past 6 months. I've done the GT3 Amateur, and then past 2 seasons I'm doing these MX5s. So that's more wins are definitely not a question. I'll just see how hard I had to battle my teammate Bradley for him.
If I know Brad, you're going to have to fight him hard. So congratulations. Is there anybody you want to thank for today's win?
I'd like to thank all the guys over at Waterback for helping me as a driver, and all my teammates. I'd like to thank you guys for putting on this great broadcast, all the stewards, the administrators of PRL, and their amazing sponsors.
Well, great stuff. That was Danny Cervantes, your winner here today. And I believe DJ's talking to Bradley Hawley, the pushing force in that win.
I am indeed. And Bradley, we just heard from your teammate that you two were in connection about that, talking about giving that little bit of a NASCAR bump draft. But did you ever have any thought about going for the win there, or was it all just teammate play?
For a little bit I did, and then once we got to the long straight, I knew Peter was going to get a heck of a run on us if I even attempted to go for the win before the end of the straightaway. And with how tight it is in that last little section, I didn't see it safe to go for a win.
Well, that's very fair. And obviously, you know, this track is so different than anything we really come to in this MX5 series. How do you prepare for something like this? What does your change do when you come into running this monster?
Practice as much as you can. I mean, that's what I tried doing. Between running the M-Tech series and everything else, I was turning a lot of laps between two different tracks this last week. And just trying to be prepared, and surprise myself with how much I dropped my time from practice to today.
Indeed. And, you know, obviously last year, some really, really good results charged at the end of the season. But what are the goals for this year?
Try to stay consistent. Maybe miss one less race. But yeah, try to stay as consistent and be up there towards the front to be battling for wins, and just put on a good show, and hopefully have another close points battle at the end of the season.
Well, we're hoping to see it. And we heard your puppy in the background there. We have to ask, what's your puppy's name?
I got 4 at the house right now. I've got Leah, Taco, Haley, and Duke here at the house. And I think who you heard was Duke, because he probably needs to go to the restroom at this point.
Well, we'll let you get right to him then, Bradley. But anybody you want to thank for a second place today? I'd
like to thank the Waterback guys. You know, we practice hard and trying to be ready for today's race. I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting us week in and week out. You always put on a great show. And everybody in the PRL. You know, we have a great group of guys that we race with week in and week out, and all the organizers who put in a lot of time to make all this possible.
Well, we are more than happy to broadcast. We are more than happy to be a part of a great league like this as well. That was your second place runner here today, Bradley Hawley. And now, Joe, I believe you've caught up with our third place finisher, Peter Newhook.
Yes, indeed. I'm very curious to hear his thoughts, too, because, Peter, you had a massive margin in the qualifying, but you were unable to shake them off the line. They followed your slipstream, and then you had that little bit of contact with Bradley Hawley. If it wasn't for that contact, do you think that you could have ran off and won this race with ease, or do you think it would have been too hard to try and get them off of you?
No, I don't think anybody runs off. We're all close enough that, like, realistically, the draft is strong enough here. I may have shaken one of them, but I was definitely going to be fighting with another one. This track, you don't win from first going down that straight, so I don't know how different the end result would be. Bradley was very apologetic on race chat after, so the way I see it, this gives me a freebie later in the season against him.
Exactly. Well, and it was so close last championship, too. Every one of those finishing positions will probably come back and be a point of contention, I'm sure. Only 10 points heading off to Olton Park. You're going to double down, see if you could maybe do a little bit better and take a second or a first?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the whole time I was driving, I was thinking like, okay, well, I lost the clean race bonus points, but because I was catching up in a draft, I probably got the fastest lap bonus points. So didn't love losing spaces to Bradley, but I think it was damage mitigation in the end. And yeah, for sure, going into next week, I'm going to be putting in the practice laps. I don't want him to get any space on me in the championship.
That's totally understandable. And we obviously will take a quick break after this, as everybody is going to go celebrate the holidays. Do you have any special plans that you're going to do here in December?
Yeah, just, with the pandemic still being in full swing, it's a little bit tricky to get together, but my family's lucky. We can spend a little bit of time together, see my girlfriend's family, and just a lot of time in the sim rig.
Well, I guess that's one advantage of the pandemic. Plenty of racing to be done. Congratulations on the third. Anybody you want to thank before you go?
My family was messaging me on WhatsApp, so thanks for that. And as ever, thanks to my girlfriend Molly for taking care of the cats while I'm here.
Great stuff there from Peter Newhook. We love pets here on GSRC. Glad everybody's giving them some love. And that's going to close us out. So we, of course, want to thank the sponsors as well before we go, which includes ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. As well as ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed here on your screen. Also, check out our merchandise store. It's at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. There's a link in the description below that makes it nice and easy to click to find. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next round, as we're going to be off for a couple weeks here, we'll go to Alton Park here for the MX-5s, and we're going to be kicking off the GT Pro Series at the Red Bull Ring. So our first double header of the season. That'll be Monday, January 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.